what's up, America? Donald Trump announces money for active duty members of the military. So Donald Trump had a speech earlier and he announced $1,776 for active duty members of the United States military. Now, he said you don't have to worry about it because he said the checks are already in the mail. Basically saying that, yeah, we've already approved that and it's coming before I even announced it. So there's that. So then Donald Trump said that coming up there's going to be basically a good RX version, which is going to be Trump RX, that'll lower prices by quite a bit. At least that's the goal. Whether that'll happen or not, we'll see. Then Donald Trump hinted at getting rid of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and replacing him with someone that'll lower interest rates. That's fantastic. I mean, I would like to end the Fed altogether, but that's fantastic for the time being. And then he brushed over Venezuela, but didn't really talk about much, except we have an oil embargo with them. That was basically Donald Trump's speech saying that gas prices are coming down, and they're going to be working on getting food prices down. Now, whether that'll happen, we'll see. But one thing is for certain, affordability here in the United States is still probably one of the most prolific issues that, I'd say 75% of America is dealing with. So once we get house prices, car prices, food prices, insurance, energy, gasoline, all that down, we can reset and restore America to where it's actually worth doing all this shit.
We're talking about new military funding, so this isn't some minor adjustment. According to him, the checks have already been mailed, and yes, that detail alone is causing serious turmoil. And just to add fuel to the fire, he's also reportedly eyeing Jerome Powell's job at the Federal Reserve. That part is real. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's happening whether people like it or not. With the November elections approaching, Democrats are visibly scrambling over these moves.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
That's independents and overall, but what about Democrats on Democrats?
Yeah, what about Democrats on Democrats? So part of the reason overall is so low is independents are driving it low. But that's not the only reason it's so low. What about Democrats on Democrats? Democrats net approval rating of congressional Democrats. I want you to keep in mind, they had never rated Democrats negatively until this year. And right now, what are we talking about? We're talking about a net approval rating from Democrats. This is Democrats on Democrats. Their approval rating is actually lower than the disapproval rating, and that is quite the drop from October. I think during the shutdown, there was a bit of a boost for Democrats, right? There was a rallying around the flag effect going on. But Democrats did not like how that shutdown turned out. They have returned against Democrats in Congress, and you mentioned Dan Goldman in that intro. One of the reasons that Dan Goldman is in trouble right now in a potential primary against Brad Ladner is because at this point the Democratic base is so upset with Democrats. So even if Democrats take back Congress, don't be surprised if Dan Goldman ain't there because of numbers like this one.
This is quite a shift that you're looking at here. I mean, so this gets to the midterms, of course. What does this do to Democrats' chances of taking back majorities?
Yeah, we're talking about it. You mentioned it. What is this? 22-6. That's a 28-point decline falling through the floor. But of course, the question is, can Democrats still take back Congress, even with their ratings as low as this? The answer is yes, but in my mind, it's definitely hurting them. Why do I say that? Because take a look at the generic congressional ballot with the Republican president at this point. Look, Democrats are ahead, but they're only ahead by 4 points. Historically, that is quite weak. At this point in the 2017, 2018 cycle, it was more than double that at 10 points. The same back during George W. Bush's second term in office, where you saw, of course, the Democrats were also ahead by 10 points. So we're talking about a lead of less than half what we normally expect. And I think that's why, at this point, there are a lot of Democrats who might be thinking, hey, we can spike that ball in the end zone. But the numbers at this point say, hold on just a minute. Yes, you're on your way to a congressional majority, but it's still a long time with numbers like this, considerably weaker than historically speaking. It might be a tougher road to hoe than normally.
Well, especially if you see that change from October.
Yeah, if you see, when you see your base going a 28-point shift, and when you see numbers like this, you see this overall.
A lot can change.
A lot can change. And at this point, you know what? Democrats are hoping that Donald Trump's unpopularity can ride them to a congressional majority. But you know what? When you have numbers like this,
They're now fighting on two fronts, Republicans and their own party. And their support is collapsing faster than you can say 2025. If you want to keep up with all this chaos, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Now let's break down what this actually means for Democrats, because what we're watching looks less like a rough patch and more like a political earthquake, one that's cracking the party from the inside out. Honestly, watching how politicians react under this kind of pressure is fascinating. Start with the numbers. Democratic approval in Congress is in free fall, scraping what many are calling historic lows. Independents, once a reliable swing group, are expressing deeper frustration than ever. Think about that. These are voters who used to drift back and forth, and now many of them aren't drifting at all. They're walking away. But it's not just independents. The real warning sign is internal. Democratic voters themselves are increasingly unhappy. For the first time this year, internal disapproval is overtaking approval. That's a flashing red light. You'd expect leadership to rally the base, unify the message, and calm the unrest. Instead, what we're seeing is disillusionment spreading across the left. And that's a recipe for serious trouble. Some Democrats are already feeling the heat. Lawmakers like Dan Goldman are facing backlash from their own constituents who feel betrayed by broken promises. And when approval collapses this hard, even holding onto a seat doesn't guarantee survival. Leadership positions become fragile. Alliances fracture. Pressure builds. At this point, the question isn't whether Democrats have a problem. It's whether their leadership can withstand the internal rebellion that's brewing.
The one thing I'll give him credit on is this bonuses to troops. He's giving them basically $1,700.
Let's see if they get them.
Well,
I want to see
it
where
is coming
the
of
money coming from.
He says tariff revenue. That's what I'm most intrigued to see if that's actually the case. Listen, coming off of the
I don't have
government
my phone. I
shutdown.
gotta check that with Professor ChatGPT because I don't believe that.
Well, in the delay that they all had of that, they got back pay, but I mean, people need help. But all Americans need help right now.
Yeah.
And just a handout isn't the answer. Smart policies are the
Well,
answer.
what he's doing is he's thinking, if I make sure that the soldiers have what they need, they'll back me in what I want. I'm going to tell you, if he says that people, he always likes to say people have Trump derangement. But I feel like he's got Obama and Biden derangement syndrome.
Yeah, the president is blaming President Biden. There's no truth. And the American people are done with the con man. I mean, as he stood up today in front of the American people, he sounded like a used car salesman. Like, let me just shout it out. Buy what I'm selling. Yes, this is a lemon. Yes, he is selling nothing but lemons.
The split screen is as follows. Everything was horrible under Biden. He called the country dead a year ago, and now he's made everything better. The polls suggest that the American public do not buy it, including Republicans. Why do you think he is putting forth the message that everything is awesome?
He's going to do that because lying has worked for him in the past. And right now, that is what he's trying to do. He is trying to lie his way through. And the only thing that he cares about is making it through these midterms. He is so nervous. That is why they are cheating and going from state to state to state, trying to redistrict, as you heard.
By pushing cost cuts and new revenue ideas, he's projecting initiative and leadership. And in modern politics, perception often matters more than reality, which is exactly why Democrats are so uneasy about this bold approach, especially as their approval ratings slide just months before critical elections, leaving them in a high-stakes balancing act where time is running out to energize their base and win back independence. And while it's impossible to say who's holding the better hand right now, one thing is clear. Both parties are being forced to take calculated risks to shape public opinion before voters head to the polls, making the coming months a true test of whether Democrats are facing real danger or still have a narrow path to a comeback.